Welcome back to the Get Off the Treadmill podcast for small business owners and entrepreneurs, where we show you how to build a successful business and to have a life too. We're going to dive into another topic that helps us make more money in less time and to get off the treadmill so we can experience a life of significance. And now, your host and the author of the #1 best-selling business book, Making Money is Killing Your Business, Chuck Blakeman.
Today we're talking with Jessica Agopian, founder of 33 Services and Consulting and multi-center Sylvan Learning franchise owner. She has rapidly expanded from her first center into her second. Known for culture-driven growth, community engagement, and connection-based sales, she has masterminded scalable operations without sacrificing quality. Jessica empowers teams to thrive, drives strong enrollment results, and helps others build freedom through systems, not hustle, proving that intentional leadership, process, and culture that creates businesses that change lives. Welcome, Jessica. It's great to have you with us.
Thanks for having me, Chuck.
And we've got my friend Mark Bellestri, who's in our business with us, on as well, because we're going to have a little bit of a three-way conversation today, because you're a Sylvan Learning franchise owner, and Mark and his wife did that for quite a few years as well. So you guys will probably just go off in a corner and talk for a while, and I wonder what's going on. But I thought it would be great to have Mark on to relate to what you're doing as well. So today we're going to talk about how to start and build a business and kind of how to be the bulldog in getting that started. Jessica, I met you at a conference, and I was just attracted to the idea that you seem to grab things and go, and you didn't spend a lot of time in anxiety or sweating or messing around with it. And once you went, you seemed to be pretty tenacious. That's why I mentioned the bulldog. So I thought it'd be good to talk about that today, because I think that's one of the attributes that we need as business owners, whether you've been in business for 20 years or you're just starting out. It's like, do I have the energy and the fortitude to push through to the next thing? So I'd love to just start with where you came from in business and go from there. So what were you doing before you did 33 Services and Consulting and your Sylvan Learning Centers?
So I have always been very motivated from a young age, and I started working as soon as I was able to. So I started working at 15 and a half. I worked at Jersey Mike's for 4 years, and I always wanted better. I was very lucky because my parents have owned businesses their whole lives. So I've always known that I wanted to go in that direction too. Obviously, I was a little too young to know kind of what direction I wanted to go in. And so my parents helped with just explaining the benefits of running your own business. And I was able to see that firsthand. And I loved the idea of it. So throughout my working experience, I always knew that I wanted to find somewhere that I loved so much that I could run it myself. And my parents' advice to that was to make sure that you work there and make sure you see how the business runs. And once you feel confident in that, then go ahead and take over. So I went through a lot of different jobs because I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I did some event planning, and every job that I had taught me something so valuable. And I got into sales, and I felt good about that. But the thing that was lacking was something that made me feel good and rewarded. I did sales for different companies, and depending on the sales you're in, it doesn't always feel the best. So I wanted to find something that was making a difference. And then I stumbled upon Sylvan, and I actually had a job at the time when I found Sylvan, but my old boss, Todd Crabtree, saw kind of the value in having me on the team, and I appreciated that. And I started working for Sylvan, and I loved it, and I was great at it, and it felt good, and I was helping students. So that's kind of what got me into Sylvan.
Yeah, brilliant. I love it. So you had the fortunate experience, or maybe unfortunate, of having parents who are business owners. So you saw all the ups and downs, and they told you what to look for. Did they give you any of the, and here's the downside? They gave you the upside, but you probably saw the downside.
I saw a lot of it. I mean, they had me working at a very young age. They wouldn't want me to tell everybody that. But yeah, I was in the business. I saw what it was like to have business partners. My parents had some business partners, didn't go so well. So I did learn a lot from that. But at the end of the day, I just knew I wanted to be my own boss. I have a lot of good ideas. I want to implement those ideas. And there's just a limit to how far you can go with that when you work for somebody.
Yeah, and I think that I want to be my own boss thing is latent inside of most of us. But when you see it lived out in a generation before you, it really comes to life. Pre-industrialized, before factories, something like 90+% of all free people, free families owned their own business. It was natural and normal for you to own your own business, and you were considered a little odd if you didn't own your own business during your lifetime. Now it's just flipped. You're a little odd because you own your own business and it's normal to work for somebody else. But I really do believe that's inside of all of us, that we want to be in control of our destiny. We want to own our own freedom and our own ability to make this happen. So I appreciate you bringing that out. What was the one thing that excited you most about looking at your parents doing this? What was the one thing that was most exciting to you about owning your own business? And then maybe the one thing that made you hesitate that you saw in their lives?
Well, I think with owning your own business, the path is endless with where you can go. So I can decide to expand. I can just focus on this one center. But having someone else in charge of that destiny is hard because
Yeah.
I want to keep going and I want more and more and more. And that's kind of what led me into Sylvan. I was working for someone who said, maybe your next step is just buying your own center because I'm not sure how much longer I can go with, supporting your salary. And so once I feel like I'm hitting a wall or a ceiling, I always start to see what's out there. So yeah.
Well, and that's part of the mindset of a business owner, not being a victim and figuring out just how to find the next thing. I've long had this conviction that life only has two, a statement and a question that drives everything. The statement is, I can't do that. Well, if that's what you say, then you're done. The question is, how do I do that?
Yep.
And if you ask that question, then the whole world opens up to you. And I think that's something that business owners really need to grasp very quickly. Stop saying, I can't do this, or this is hard, and figure out, how do I do this? Yeah, this is hard. I'm learning more. How do I do this? So again, you came by that honestly. So what did you see that maybe gave you more pause in the business that you saw from this? Like, maybe I don't want to do this.
Yeah, well, there was a lot of unknown, but every job that I've had has started out like that. And I think that applies to everyone. And that's why it's so scary,
Yeah.
is because you feel like there's a lot that you don't know. I don't know how to do accounting, or I don't know how to do all these things that I've never done before. But I mean, I started Sylvan with no education background, and that was terrifying stepping in. I was like, I don't know any of this stuff, but I learned it and I became an expert at it. And now I feel like I am an expert. I know I'm an expert. So everything is teachable. And every time I see something that I can't do, I just think, and I've told all of my friends this too, who are out there in the workforce trying to find their next thing. If somebody else can do it, why can't you do it? We're all human beings. We've all taught ourselves to do things. Like, there's people that run marathons. They have to train for that. Everything is learnable and teachable. And so if someone else can do it, I feel like I can do it too.
That's beautiful. Mark, you've worked with a lot of Sylvan centers and you've owned your own, and you've seen a lot of Jessicas come through who didn't know what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm guessing you've seen a lot of different responses than hers.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, first I want to give a shout out because, Jessica mentioned something that I think is really important. She was fortunate enough to be hired by I think, a true leader in the Sylvan system, Todd, and he believes in growing leaders. And so I think she had a great opportunity to not only be in that position, but then because of your background, Jessica, even though you don't know the education business, you saw what it's like to be an entrepreneur. And then you had this support of another great entrepreneur, Todd Crabtree. And so what I love is you have this can-do attitude, plus you have this support system. And I think that's what's the difference for a lot of folks who maybe aren't familiar with that particular franchise or the skill sets that go along. In most cases, Sylvan is for educators. That's what they attract. Jessica's an entrepreneur, though. She's a business owner.
Yeah.
And what she provides in her business is outstanding education for families and students. That's different. And she had great mentors to help her along with the genetics of her parents.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think one of the other pieces to this is that you came into doing something that you didn't understand. And I would say there's, over the years, I've experienced that there's two different kinds of people who own businesses. One is what I would call a business owner. And a business owner, and it's just my phrase, but a business owner is someone who kind of learned the business, knew it really well, and stayed with it and bought a business or took over that business. But they learned one thing. They learned architecture or being a surgeon or being a violin maker. And they at some point took the jump and started their own business, and it was the same thing. And they stick with that for their whole lives because they're really good at it. That's a business owner. And I think we need mostly those. Then there's the crazy people like Jessica and me and Mark, and I would call us entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs distinguish themselves differently by saying, yeah, that looks like a really good business. I don't know anything about it, but I think that if I got involved, there might be something there. Let's do that. And that's odd. And there's a lot of train wrecks involved with that. We don't need very many of those people. We need mostly business owners who will create stability in the world. So I just make that dichotomy for those of you who are worried about going into a business. You're excited, you're passionate about that business, but you don't know that much about it. That's okay. Here's the dirty little secret. 75% of business is generic. Everybody has payroll, everybody has sales and marketing and people and leadership and accounting. And how we apply those things might be different, but 25% of the business is the other side of that. And Jessica, I'll just throw it back to you since you've done this. Would you see that now that 75% of your success is not being good at the Sylvan stuff, but being good at business?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I think joining, peer groups and talking to others about business, it doesn't matter what business you're in. We can all relate. When we talk to other business owners, everybody's experiencing the same highs and lows. They're just specific things that obviously only relate to your business, but most of it is very generic. And so once you figure that out, you can pretty much figure anything out. I mean, everything is the same in different ways, So yeah, it was really easy for me to figure all of that out, especially, I mean, I had some experience working in a Sylvan Center before, and the transition was very, very easy. And so that's why I have always worked for the companies before, because then it's just a seamless transition. But I feel that even if I hadn't had that experience before working in a center, I would have figured it out, and it would have been an exciting thing for me too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think when we start these businesses and concern ourselves with the business side, what I've experienced over the years is that I know plenty of people that I would call craftspeople that started a business when they probably either should have worked for someone else or they should have started the business with someone who loves the business side. Because craftspeople are people who love making the chairs and they know all about chair making. They can tell you everything about it, but they don't like or enjoy business. It's a necessary evil for them. So they start a business making chairs, and they're making the best chairs in the world, and they're sitting in their basement. Meanwhile, a guy over town is really kind of bad at making chairs, but he's really good at the business side, and his chairs are flying out the door, and it's really sad. But that's too often the case, is that we think that the magic is in being the craftsperson. Well, what if you were both? What if you were really good at the craft, the 25%, and you had either you were good at the business side or you brought somebody in who was. So I think that you're a testimony to that. You're younger than a lot of Sylvan owners, and you're farther along because you have more of the business side figured out. And it's not a gift, it's not a talent. It's something we learn, just like you learned the Sylvan side. That wasn't a gift, that wasn't a talent. You figured it out. So people can't look at that and say, well, I'm just not good at business. No, you just haven't learned it yet. You can. Mark, you have a thought on that?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think the biggest strength that I've seen from my conversations with Jessica over the last, I'd say 3-4 weeks is the art of the possibility. And she has this mentality, and I think it's really important. How can I make this better? Not, I don't know this, which is easy to say, by the way. And a lot of people do that. I'm scared I don't know this. Where Jessica's, how can I make this better? I don't even know what this is. I don't know all the details, but I think I can make this a better experience. And that's what I found, Jessica, through our conversation a few weeks ago. That was always on your mind. And that's a huge strength of an entrepreneur. And I think, quite frankly, it is one of the most common attributes of most entrepreneurs. I don't know a darn thing about this, but how can I make it better?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's how I came up. I mean, like you were saying earlier, Mark, about Todd, he
Yep,
mentored me through everything, and just having that
I believe it.
support and just knowing that someone was there if things went wrong or just to fall back on, I knew he was always there, and I
Yep,
knew that he would coach me through how to fix it. And now I'm trying to bring that into my business and be that mentor for all of my staff too, because
yep.
I think that reassurance that you provide to your staff just goes such a long way, and that praise and the company culture, like everything just goes hand in hand. So if you can be there to boost your team up and tell them how they're doing such a great job, and if we're lacking in some areas, that's okay, we'll fix it together.
Yeah.
That creates your team and the trust, and just building up your whole group around your beliefs and values. So yeah, I really think that's one of the most important
And
things.
Chuck, to use some of our phrases, what I'm hearing from Jessica is the execution relentlessly
Yeah.
and through conation of a bad plan, i.e., it doesn't mean you've got it right. It doesn't mean it's perfected. It means that you're going to learn more as you go forward. And it's okay if it's not perfect from the start, because you know that you have what it takes to continue to make adjustments so that it becomes great. And that's what I think is one of the key attributes of most Sylvan owners who are successful.
Yeah, and I think most of us get modeled something very different who don't have business owners as parents. We get modeled that we need to know everything before we get moving. Everything has to be figured out and get it perfect. And we know that in business that doesn't work. So
Mm-hmm.
the mantra becomes planning doesn't create movement, movement creates the plan. And it's only because you got moving. Yeah, you want to figure some things out, but there's a lot that isn't figured out, and that's okay. I will get it as I go. It won't kill me. And it's very difficult to get many young business owners or even anybody starting a business to realize that the best way to figure this business out is to go sell something, get moving, figure this out. And it'll come to you because movement will create your plan. Like, was it Mike Tyson who said every boxer has a plan until they get hit in the mouth?
Yep.
It's that. I want to circle back to something you both said that I think you guys are better at than most entrepreneurs. I think you're right that entrepreneurs will look at an industry or a profession or a process or a product or a store, and they'll say, I see how that's operating and I know how I can add value.
Mm-hmm.
I can make this better by adding value this way. I think that is an entrepreneurial thing to constantly innovate and maybe even break molds.
Yep.
And then I think the problem with most entrepreneurs, and you guys don't suffer from this from what I can see, I do. Most entrepreneurs have trouble getting past the first iteration of making those improvements. Once I've made the improvements and I've gone all the way around the thing once, and I got the assembly line fixed and I got the orders going out the door, and I don't want to keep going. And I think you guys are weird in that you actually can keep this stuff going. And I know, Mark, you still want to get out of each business as you go, but you're still really good at that. And I bring that up because if you are like the three of us, at some point you are probably going to need to hire someone who is highly detail oriented, who you think is boring, who loves to eat the same things every day and be consistent. You need that person to actually make it better, better, and better on a really micro level. And until you get that person, you're going to struggle. These two guys, they tend not to need that as much because they have that level of detail. But I know that's something we all need as entrepreneurs. So I'll let you speak to that. Either one of you.
Yeah, no, and Jessica, the example I'm going to give that when we had our conversation, Jessica is bravely, and I mean this, it's a big endeavor. She's taking over the Franchise Owners Association Preferred Vendor Program. And what was really interesting, because I also was in those same shoes, so that's why we have a lot in common, was she wasn't looking at it, what's broken or anything. She approached it with, how can I make it better? That's a different mindset. It's subtle, it's a nuance, but it was more, what can I do to give more value? How do I make this better? I just think it's a different mindset, and I think it produces better and more consistent results in the right direction versus something's broken, I'm going to fix it. Yes, that's always a possibility, but something doesn't have to be broken for you to make it better as well. And that's where I think Jessica has a really strong strength. And she's going to find things that, oh, now I know why it's being done this way. But then she's going to find other things. I know why it's being done, and I know how I can make it even better.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, it's true.
I feel like the world is changing, and a lot of these businesses, especially a franchise like this, has gone through a lot of changes, and it's hard to keep up with that. And I think just having a positive and fresh perspective on things, on how can this better my business, is really important, instead of thinking of it in a way of like how it's going to affect my business. And so rolling with those changes and implementing them into your business and getting people excited about the changes, I think is very important, because otherwise it becomes a negative thing and it falls onto the rest of your team and they can feel that negativity. So just boosting them up and saying that this is a positive change, this will help you, this will make you more efficient and make the whole business efficient overall.
Yeah, and that
mean
might,
it.
and mean
it. Yeah, because a lot of people can say that, but you exude that philosophy, and people can sniff out on authentic people versus authentic.
Yeah, and one of the other reasons I wanted to have you on is because you have the mindset that reminds me, I use this analogy a lot because I think it's a really healthy mindset for business owners. We should be a stream running downhill. A stream running downhill has one objective. It knows exactly what it wants. It wants to get to the ocean. And it's relentlessly doing that no matter what it runs into. And when the stream runs into a beaver dam, it doesn't get emotional. It expects beaver dams. Like, of course, there's going to be obstacles in my way. I'm moving forward. I'm going to cause my own trouble. And too many business owners, to your point, they get involved in something and then something happens and they get either surprised or sad or frustrated or angry, as if that wasn't going to be the case. And that's the learning opportunity. That's when we actually grow. If we figure out how to blow up the beaver dam or go around it or go under it, we've learned something. So the next time we hit a beaver dam, it's even easier. We can go faster. So I hear that in your thinking. It's like, oh, that's hard. Oh, we're not supposed to be able to do that. Oh, okay, let me figure that one out. And that is really valuable. And again, you didn't come by that naturally. I'm sure you had your parents doing that, but I think that's also a way that you have decided to live over the years. And so you've got that mental and emotional muscle that I just want to highlight for our listeners. This is a really valuable thing that we all need. Stop whining, stop being the victim, and figure out how to use the thing coming at you for your own benefit and watch what happens.
Yeah, there's a solution to everything out there. I mean, if I don't have the solution, I'll figure it out. It's not like this is the end of the world. I mean, this applies to everything in life. I think a lot of people are scared that things aren't in order for other parts of their life too. When people get married, when people have babies, I think I hear a lot, I'm around that age right now, where people are saying, oh, well, I don't have a house, or I don't have the money, I don't have this to get married. And I'm like, just get married. I mean, nothing changes. You just figure it out as you go. And that's the same with business. It's somebody has experienced this exact problem. And in this day and age, we have so many resources out there to fix our problem if you can't figure it out on your own. And in a place like Sylvan, we have a whole system of people who are experiencing the same things. And I mean, every business has similar things like that, where they have people that they can reach out to, or you can just innovate ideas and pilot them and see how it goes. And if it doesn't work, try something else. There's always a solution.
Well, I think that settles it for us. I think that's the discovery process, to be fascinated instead of frustrated. Anytime we run into something like that, Jessica, we can keep going. This was fun, but we do have to come to a stop, and want to know how people can get a hold of you if they just want to talk to you as a business owner, or even if they want to get a hold of Sylvan and connect with you in your business. How can they get a hold of Jessica?
Yeah, so you can email me. My email is jessica@sylvaneducation.com. Sylvan is Sylvan. And yeah, we're a great tutoring center too. We're the best out there, if I may say. So yeah, I would encourage anyone to reach out to me. I would
Great.
love to talk to them about it.
Well, we'll check in with you again when you're at 5, 10, 15, 20 franchises, and then become the CEO. So I look forward to watching your progress, and keep going.
Thank you, Chuck, and thank you, Mark. You both
Thanks,
are
Jessica.
amazing. I'm very happy I got to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That wraps up another episode of the Get Off the Treadmill podcast. If you found this podcast helpful, please subscribe and hit the like button to ensure you are receiving the latest tools you need to grow your business and to get off the treadmill. If you want more information on the 3 to 5 Club, the Crankset Group, or to book Chuck as a business advisor, speaker, or workshop leader, you can contact us at grow@cranksetgroup.com. Until next time, have a great week.